Now, welcome friends. This is our last lecture. This is lecture 2 of week 4. You guys made it. You are here. Way to go. Way to be here. You did it, right? If you guys have never heard this song, it is a legendary song. It's forever. But maybe you've heard this song. You did it. You graduated. It takes forever. Okay, well, it's supposed to be the graduation song. If you've never heard it, there's the link. Make sure you go listen to it. It is just an oldie but goodie.
They play it at every kid's graduation.
Yes. So I like to play it every time we have a stack end. You basically graduated from this stack, so just wanted to play that for you. It's really forever though. It's a long video. So just wanted to say you did it. Congratulations. Just again, wanted to reiterate, you do have one more core assignment this week that must be submitted by 9 a.m. Now I have just a few more assignments to grade. So if you haven't seen that, if you see that your resubmits haven't been checked yet, I am getting to those as soon as possible. If on the off chance, you need a little bit of time on Friday, I'm good with that. So I will work with you as much as I can because it's taken me a little bit longer to grade than fully anticipated. But just want to say, as always, you have to have 90% of all of your core assignments. So if you didn't do this one, technically you could still move forward, but this is going to be a piece that you take into the next stack. So make sure that, this is one that you want to make sure that you do as well, because you're going to continue to do this up until I think middle to end of your next stack is when you'll finish your first project. And this is big for your portfolio. This is just so that you can show employers what you've done and so some of your knowledge. So this is not something you want to skimp out on. So please make sure that you do that as well. Again, I just said it, but really want to reiterate, in addition to passing the belt exam, all core assignments must be completed by Friday. If we're looking here, Friday, 9 a.m. is the absolute final deadline for all Stack 1 assignments and belt exam retakes. Now, if you have to retake the exam, it must be due by 9 a.m. So you can start it at 8:30 in the morning on Friday. It will be available for you to do that, but you'll have 30 minutes to do it, or else unfortunately you have to do a retake. So if you do have to, if you did find yourself having to retake the exam, I would start it at least on Thursday. If you haven't already done it, I would start it at least on Thursday and make sure that you get it submitted by 9 a.m. That is the cutoff for that. Same thing with the assignments. And again, if if I don't get to your assignments until a little bit later on, I can work with you as well. Are there any questions just on sort of the expectation of assignments and everything that's due this week? Any questions on that? Hope I've been as clear as possible.
So basically, just as long as all of our assignments are in by Friday, we're good to go.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. And not like we didn't just totally give you a bag of garbage, of course.
Yeah. No, if there's a resubmit, if there is a resubmit, that also is part of it. And that's really the one where I've gone through everything but your projects for week 3. So the project assignment. So if there is any tweak, I am, I want to make sure that you guys are prepared enough, but not to where it's going to really, if that is really going to hinder you, then we can talk and make sure that you're taken care of. So yes, it's all core assignments and resubmits due by Friday. Cool. A little bit of next steps. You did it. You guys, I always like to have students sort of reflect back on, okay, it's been 4 weeks and some of you guys came in with experience and some of you guys came in with 0 experience, and really just looking at what you've learned in 4 weeks. And you should be very proud, right? 4 weeks ago, if I were to ask you to do a univariate visualization, would you have any idea what I'm talking about? Or if I were to ask you to handle duplicate data or turn a list into a NumPy array, would you have been able to do that? And maybe you would have, but I'm sure that there's things that you've learned in these last 4 weeks. And so I really am an advocate of take time to acknowledge the things and the feats that you've overcome, the things that you've learned, because learning and boot camps are really hard. And there are people that end up not being able to do it. And that's sort of, there's nothing against them. It's not for everybody, but when it gets hard, it's also really a good idea to, if you're constantly refreshing your mind with what you've accomplished, when it gets hard, those thoughts, if I can't do this, are going to go away, right? Or be minimized because you're like, look what I've already done. So I would just really encourage you over the next couple of days, or even next couple of moments, just really thinking about what you've accomplished in the last 4 weeks. And you guys have done incredible. And the belt exams, all of you guys did so well. So really great job there. On Friday, you're going to be receiving an email. It's actually going to be from Sherlyn. So given that you've turned in all your assignments, you've attended class, and you've passed the belt exam, you'll be receiving an email from Sherlyn on Friday, typically around Friday afternoon, 3 to 4 p.m. PST. And that email is going to have everything in there for you. So it's going to have your new stack schedule. So you're going to have a new one of these guys, your new Zoom room. You're going to be in the same Discord, but other than that, everything is going to be this new except the Discord. The Discord channel will be renamed though. We will call it Machine Learning. So even though the name looks different, you will still be in the same one. So that way you guys can access your old messages if that is a desire of yours. And that'll be on Friday. You'll be moved into that as well. So if you guys see like, oh, fun, you're going to see a fundamentals, but actually, I don't even know if you'll see a fundamentals. You won't even have access to it. So if you just have access to machine learning, that means that, you're in that new channel, but still the same channel, but you guys have moved on for that. Okay. You will also be, your next stack is going to be unlocked on Friday. Now, when I said, or the reason I put the star is because sometimes our platform does batch processing versus a more like streamlined instantaneous processing, and meaning that to unlock everything, our system sometimes waits till like midnight and then everything gets unlocked. It's called batch processing. So it has a bunch of requests and it either waits till there's 100 requests and then does it, or waits for a certain time. So if you don't see it by Friday, no real reason to panic. If on Saturday you don't see that your new material is unlocked, go ahead and you can email Sherlyn and let her know. Feel free to CC me on that, just so that way if Sherlyn doesn't catch it and I can, we can, we both have the ability to go in and change it and try to make sure that your stack does get unlocked. So it should be unlocked by Saturday for sure, but maybe Friday. So hopefully, check in there. Lastly is we've got an end-of-stack survey. The survey link is here. I'll put this in the chat. Copy link address, put this in the chat. This is just something I know because Coding Dojo doesn't give you enough surveys as is. So it's just, we thought we'd give you another one. But what this survey does is it's a great indicator for me as an instructor. What can I improve on? What can I be better at? What are things that you liked about the program? What are things that you wish can be improved? There are numerical aspects to that. Those help, but your comments really help as well. If you think that I did a poor job, that's okay. You're entitled to your opinion, but it helps me if you put, here's what you can improve. Or if you think I did a good job, what did you like about it? So doing that survey really, really helps. I did put that in the chat as well. I put that in the chat. So, and then I'll be sending out an email and I'll put it in Discord as well for that. Somebody asked, I was wondering if all 3-week assignments, nope. As I mentioned at the beginning of class, I haven't gotten to the part 3 part, but I am working on that tonight to get that fully done for you. Thanks for the question about week 3 assignments. Any questions on sort of next steps, what to expect, where to go, what to do, any of that nature? Okey-doke. There's a survey link. Okay, so this is our final session. It's not going to be super packed. Now it is and it's not at the same time. I'll explain what that means in a bit. But the idea behind after this class, you're going to know the end of stack expectation. We've just done that. We just walked through that. We're going to understand more advanced explanatory topics. So I'm going to show you not only how to create more advanced visualizations, but now we're going to start implementing different tools, right? Different objects or different methods that we can use to make things more efficient. And also, how do we actually make our visualizations into a function? And how can we do that? So we're going to walk through how to do that. And then we're going to actually take a visualization we had from week 3, lecture 1. So at the very beginning of us dealing with visualizations, we're going to take that and we're going to modify it to our more advanced learning now. So that way we can be, it's going to be more advanced and more efficient as well. Also, you can see how far you've come from that regard. Any questions on that? I need to recap. Okay. So let me explain this guy. I put this in the chat. I'll put this in the chat right now. It's on our Google Doc. It's on our Google Doc as well. And I will post the solutions page in here. The idea behind this, we are not going to go through all of this today. This is a ton of material, but we wanted to make sure that you had as much material as you can. So this is the idea behind this is we're going to overload you with material. So that way this weekend or the rest of this week, if you've already done all of your core assignments, you still got a couple more days. So your next stack unlocks. That way you can look at some of this stuff. So I have, you know, loops and things to ask. There's some of it that's already filled in, but you know, things that you can do, and I'll attach the solution page as well. That way you can walk through this and learn, you know, sort of stuff that's not on the platform, but it's just sort of interesting to know. Things like using Seaborn to scale fonts. There's different things with set context that whether you're giving a talk or if you want to put this on a poster or in a paper or a notebook, there's different sizes that Seaborn will automatically do. So there's lots of great examples. And so I, again, overflowed and overloaded a lot of this, this entire collab. That way you have a bunch of things that you can continue to learn if you've already gone through all of the material. There is this piece right here, working with folders and stored files with Python. I'm not going to go over that today, but because I fear that it will take up a little bit too much time. But the idea behind this is instead of, well, I guess we'll kind of just walk through a little bit of this. There's a couple things you can do. You can add this force remount true when you are mounting your drive. The way it would work is when you go to mount your drive. So let's see. If I were to click this to mount, I can connect it to, you know, you'll get this window that says connect to Google. If I say no, then what it will do is it will still put this code right here. And if I add this force remount, if I want to reload the contents of my collab or reload the contents of my drive, I can do this force remount, and that will allow me to do that. So, and then this is a great thing about saving file paths as variables. So instead of having to go in and then copy the path, saving it as variables, which will allow you to navigate through your folders, will allow you to navigate through the different pieces and just use concatenation, things that we've already dealt with. Like instead of if I had like a data folder, I have my base folder. And then if I wanted to add like some data, I could just concatenate onto this base. So I don't always have to, you know, if I'm dealing with multiple things, like in this file, there's multiple pieces of data. There's multiple data sets. There's 2 of them. There's the housing and then there's superheroes. If I wanted to have both of those, it'd be really easy. Instead of having to do the URL for each, it's just really easy to have a base folder, maybe that's in data, and then I can just pull from there. So when I'm reading in my CSV, I allow to do that. In order for us to do that, there's this OS module. That's something I would encourage you to get sort of familiar with when it comes to Python. I don't know that I'm recording. Oh, I am recording. Cool. There's an OS module, and this is just for managing files and folders. So if I wanted to see like the list directory, I can use this OS. We import it the same way. So if I am going to use it in the same way, whenever we want to use matplotlib or pandas or numpy, I also have to import OS. So you might see that in the wild if you're looking up code, if you're looking up different things. If you see OS dot, that's just a module that we can use. And with that, there's tons of methods with OS that you can do. And that's really when we start, if you start automating stuff, OS is really going to come in handy, which is pretty sweet. So added that in there. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we can do here. So if you want to create new folders using OS, if you wanted to do a whole bunch of stuff, It's all the code is in there. Again, I don't want to take up too much time today talking about it, but wanted to make sure that you guys had it. It's commented, and then the actual code base. Now, this is all under, if you are kind of following through this, this is all with the interpretation that in your drive, you have something called DS Bootcamp. So if you don't have that, right? If that's, so like for my drive, it goes, mine actually says data science. So this would just say data science. Right there. So it's under that interpretation. And then this base folder gets me this guy, right? And so if I wanted to go into data, I totally could this way. And that gets me all my data. And I could pull in multiple data sets. So just something to keep in mind when you are sort of walking through this. This is contingent on your specific drive and how you set it up. Cool. Okay. Any questions on that?
No, thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. Just extra tools that I hope that you guys can utilize.
Oh, I'm gonna break a lot of stuff. That looks like
I
fun.
hope so. That's kind of the point. Okay. So what I do want to do today, Amanda, this is on this guy right here. I believe. Let me make sure I did the right one. Yep. So it's in our just in our normal class sheet with the Google Colab, just like normal. And then I'll put the solutions one here as well. I'll add in the solutions page. Cool. Now, what I did want to do is walk through a little bit more advanced visualizations and sort of show how we can do certain things. So if you guys remember way back on lecture 1 of week 3, what we did is we dealt with Ames, Iowa housing numbers, and that's our first histogram, right? And so I've already mounted my drive. I've already run that. Now I did want to show, so it says already mounted. Cool. I want to show a couple things. Here we've got pandas, numpy, seaborn, matplotlib, .pyplot, SPLT, right? These are 4 hitters that we always are going to have. One thing, there's a couple things to note. Matplotlib is a massive, massive library. Here specifically, we are bringing in, it's almost taking a piece of the pie when we're grabbing pyplot, right? If I wanted, because we're going to see that there's other tools I can use.
Holy shit.
If I wanted to, there is, if I wanted the entire thing, I could just say matplotlib as MPL, and that's going to bring in everything. So I can say MPL dot. Let's say I didn't do this, right? If I wanted to deal with pyplot, I could say MPL dot pyplot dot whatever we wanted, dot plot or dot whatever we wanted to do in the same way that we do PLT. Right, this is just taking a step almost in like a folder, right? We're going into the pyplot folder. You can sort of think about it that way and have access to everything there. Matplotlib is the parent. It is the massive class. And so just wanted to make sure that you are aware that matplotlib .pyplot is not the in totality matplotlib. Matplotlib in itself is, you can just bring that in as MPL as well. We specifically are dealing with matplotlib, but we're going to see another way of how to deal with that. Second thing I wanted to show you is, yeah, go ahead.
If you bring in MPL, is it worth even calling the import matplotlib as pyplot as PLT? Like, should you just skip that one if you're going to have to call in matplotlib as MPL since it's the whole thing?
Well, it depends on how often you're using. So if you're using PLT a lot, then if you don't do matplotlib.pyplot anytime, so if let's say we want to do a PLT dot plot, right? But if I wanted to do that and I wanted to do something here, if I only do MPL, this PLT pyplot has to become now MPL dot pyplot dot.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you have to step into it. And so if you're going to use something frequently, so like if I know that I'm going to deal with pyplot multiple times, this PLT is much, much easier because now I don't have to step from MPL. I'm stepping into pyplot. Now I have access to everything in pyplot.
Gotcha.
And now I want to use the plot method. Does it make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It basically, it's a shorthand for the rest of your code structure. You just call it in and then everything has already got that. Kind of what you just did with appending data. Basically, by calling in pyplot, that PLT is all of that beginning part, and now you're just
Yeah.
calling that
Mhm.
particular method in pyplot. That makes perfect sense. Thank you so
Yep.
much. Great explanation.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. The other thing I did want to, thanks for the question. The other thing I did want to note is when we are dealing with our different libraries, you can do this where you are printing that you can learn and see what version is Google Colab using. So when I run this here, it's showing that matplotlib, the one that Google Colab, when we bring it in, the version we're dealing with is 3.2.2, pandas is 1.3.5, and then Seaborn is 0.11.2. But if I did matplotlib, if I just go to this, you can see, let's see. Let me pull matplotlib document. Okay, even here you can see that what this is dealing with, the version that this is dealing with is 3.5.1. So you can see it whenever I was typing it. Let's see. Where is it going to show me the version? If I go to Matt, if you see right here where it says 3.5.1 documentation, right? So it is important to note if you are trying to do something in Google Colab and the documentation is showing, yes, this is how you do it. It's really important to just say, okay, well, let's see what sort of version we're using. So that way you can say, oh, matplot, you know, lib 3.2.1, this issue. Now, there's a couple of reasons why maybe Google Colab doesn't have the most updated versions. Typically, you don't have the most updated versions. You have the most consistent, the one that has the less bugs, right? And so, I mean, there's companies that still use Java as a website language, and its sort of legacy. It's old. It's like 60 years old. It is slow, and it's not slow necessarily, but what you'll notice in tech is it's moving, it's crazy. It also uses old consistent things because, you know, it's the issue you already know you have and you can deal with versus trying to transfer over and then something new breaks. So just being aware of what documentation you're reading, what you are reading about, and then what, just to make sure that they are set up. So again, if you wanted to see those documentation, you just say dunder, so double underscore version, and it will tell you the version of the library that you're pulling in. Cool. All right. Any questions on that? Everybody makes sense here? Great. So what we have here is we've got this data set that I just got from what we had on week 3, but if you wanted to, at the top of this, I'll go find it. At the top of this guy, there is right here. This is the data set we're going to talk about. So I'll put this in the chat for you. This is from Kaggle. This is where it came from. So this is just the data set. Now, there is a test and a train version. You guys will get to this. When you do machine learning, you break up your data into typically a 75 to 25 split, to where you've got 75% is what you train your machine learning on. And then you basically train it and then you test it on the other 25% to see how good your model does. So the reason I'm picking the train here is because that's the larger amount. That's like 75% of my data set. And so you can just download that here if you wanted, put that in. That's what I've done. And so that's why I've got train. If you're wondering, why do you pick train over test? There you go. The more you know. So I've got my data. And then the index, we had an ID. So we just went ahead and set that index to that first column. And I'm looking at my data set. Now, there are a couple things like NADA numbers, a couple of missing values if I were to look at this. So what we are wanting to do, just because we've already talked about cleaning data a lot, what we're going to do is actually just keep a subset of our features where we're going to take our columns. These are our clean columns. And so I grab this. Now I've just got specific columns that I'm wanting to deal with. Again, this is just for a class perspective. So if you're wanting to do if you want to take this data set and do other things, it's a great idea to, clean it, look at it. Why is certain things happening, right? Is there a duplicate? Is there not a duplicate? Are there missing values? What can I gain from looking at the missing values? Things like that. And if I look at this again, just super quick, are there any null values? There's not. So this is a clean data set. Everything except for our building type is an object, which makes sense. We've got this building type, which is one fam. So that is our data. Cool. So revisiting from our, no, I think I took out our PLT. Yep. Let me rerun this. Cool. So revisiting from week 3, we've got this histogram that we created where we have our fig and our ax, right? This is our OOP version where I create the subplots. I passed in my fig size of 10 and 5. And then here I actually use Seaborn to create my hist, right? I pass in my data. What we're wanting to look at for our housing is our sale price. Our ax equals our axis. We have our set where we can pass in our title. We also wanted to have a mean and a median price where we did our ax v line. So that's what's showing here, where we passed in our mean price and our median price. We've got our colors, both are in black and they're both are dotted. Cool. Then we have our legend right here. And this is what comes up. Makes total sense, right? Now, what we can do and what we did here, in order for me to get these different values for our mean and median price, is we actually did this round, right? Where we ran this method of round, where we pass in a number and then how many digits do we want? But there is a more efficient way to do that. Right. What we basically did is we had our mean price and then we passed in this round, but there is a more efficient way. And this is where we start dealing with our string formatters. So what we can do is we can format this in a different way to where I don't have to pass in this round. I don't have to do this extra functionality. It's just a built-in version in order to accomplish the same thing. So what we do in our F string and our curly brackets is after the variable that we want to print. So in this case is mean price. What we add is a colon followed by a special format code. Now there is a, I'll put this in the platform for you, but there's different format codes. So if you wanted to accomplish different things, you totally can, whether it's just rounding numbers, if you wanted to have to show whether it's positive or negative. If you wanted a format float with no decimal places, if you wanted to do all sorts of things, exponent notation, right aligned, left aligned, there's a ton of different things you can do. You can accomplish that. It looks like this, right? Here's the output, and then here's the formatting. It's almost like here's a secret code to make it look this way. So if I wanted the 2 decimals, what I do is I do my colon, dot, or period, 2, F. And so if I am doing this, let's go back to my code. What I can do is instead of running this round, I can replace that round with mean price. That's the variable that I want to alter and change. I pass in a colon. I put in this 2, the amount I want it to round to, and then I pass in F. And this is our string formatter that formats what this is going to look like. Now, if I were to look at that, I still am just going to have certain sort of zero. Let's actually just build this out. Cool. So this is what we currently have, right? But what I can do instead of doing this round is I can say my variable I want to alter dot to F. And this will automatically format my string for me. So let's do the same thing here. I get rid of this round. I still need my curly bracket. You still need your curly boy. I'll get rid of this so far to F. Now, if I run that, let's see if this works. Got my mead price. Yep. Okay. Okay, so I still get the same thing, but notice when I ran it up here, I said 2, but the values were 0 and 0, right? So 0, 2, 0.20 and 0.00. It didn't, even though I designated that I wanted 2 values, it went ahead and said, 0, I can go ahead and drop that. By using the string formatter, it will actually put 2 values, regardless if it's a 0 or not. So it doesn't automatically assume and change that. Any questions on that? Does that make sense? Cool. Now notice if I wanted, this is dealing in, once we get to a lot of zeros, it can get kind of confusing, right? Is this from the first perspective, is this 2 million or 200,000? If I wanted to go ahead and add in the commas, I just, before my dot, I put in a comma right here and a comma right here. And before I even do that, if I do that, by default, it will not work. Why did that not work? Uh-oh.
Did it work in just the legend? Or they always been in the legend?
Oh, yeah, that's what it was. There it is. Sorry about that. I was like, what is happening? Because I am just dealing with my label. We're going to look at, because in a little bit, we'll look at how we can do the other ones. So I was like, what is happening? Yeah, so in my
I'm glad I caught
legend
it.
now you can see, thanks, Cole, I appreciate you. It's been a long week, I'll be honest. If you look at my legend
it.
now, automatically every single 3 values, just like we would with 180,000 or 1.8 million, if we got to that point, it automatically adds. Here, I'll delete one of these just so that way we can see the difference. So you see this one doesn't have it and this one automatically does. So it'll automatically put that there. That's just part of our formatter. Great. Good catching. Good catch, Cole. Okay. So what if I wanted to, I'm starting to explore, we're doing exploratory data and I'm wanting to see, okay, the different distributions amongst different columns. Well, if I wanted to do that, as we know, if I wanted to repeat the same code over and over, what's a good idea?
Like a while loop?
A while loop, but what if I don't know when I want to use it? I know I want to write the code, but I want to use it in multiple places.
Create a function.
Yeah, exactly. Great job. So I'm going to create a function. So I'm going to functionize this entire plot. And then actually let's change it to where I can change which column I pass in. Where if I just want this distribution, I can just do this and then it's just quick and easy. Even if I wanted to utilize a for loop, right, with my string calls, just like you guys have done, we can do that and see all the different distributions. So if I'm creating a function, what's the first thing I have to do anytime I create a function?
You need def.
Yeah, I need def, right? So def, we're going to call this right here. We're going to call it plot dist because we're dealing with a distribution, right? What do I need next?
The variables you're going to feed it.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get to that in just a second, Brock. I'm going to come back to you and we'll sort of think about when we're building this function, what are some variables we want to make sure that we have and what are some things we can change? Cool. So within my function, I'm going to actually just take these values. I'm going to take this, put this within my function. I'm going to come down here, make sure it's indented, make sure everything in here is indented, because remember, that's Python. Cool. If it's not indented, it's not going to be part of the function, so none of that stuff will read, right? Okay, so I've got my plot dist, right? It's my function, but what's sort of wrong with this right now? What could be a potential issue here?
Is it the indentation?
Not the indentation. Let's say I want the point of me building this function is I want to be able to use it on multiple columns or maybe even multiple, like I just want to build this function. If I'm dealing with multiple data sets, What's sort of an issue that could happen with my current function as is?
Oh, the labels wouldn't
Parameters.
be.
Yeah,
the- yeah.
keep going, keep going.
I was gonna say the labels would be the same for all of them because you've assigned the, setting the title to the function itself.
Yeah. And not only that, but this is hard coded for only one data set and only one column, right? It's only this specific data set that I call DF and only the sales price. So going back to what Brock was saying, what we can do is we can say a few things. I know that in order for this to run, I'm going to create this parameter, this argument called data, right? In order for you to even do this, you got to give me which data you're talking about. Make sense? So anytime somebody wants to run this function, in order for this function to run, they have to tell me which data set they want to run from. Cool. Now, the other thing I can do is so, okay, great. I've done that. What do I need to do next?
Give it the variable that you're gonna plot.
Yeah, exactly. So let's say X
Okay,
equals. So I can do a couple things. Here, if I know what I'm dealing with, and they're all gonna have, I have the same sort of data sets. I think of like Nick, right? Nick, you probably deal with a lot of the same columns all over. If I wanted to do that, if I have all these data sets that are dealing with the same, sales, right? We have some sort of functionality of we're always gonna have a sales price column in whatever data set you give me. If that's the case, then what I can do is I can say X equals sale price. And what this allows is if a different column is not passed, it's going to default to sale price. Now I can pass in, and we'll see how I can pass in another column name. But if another one's not passed in, that's okay. It's going to default to sale price. And then the only other thing that just in this, there's a ton of different things we can do, but maybe your fig size. If I wanted to always pass in a fig size, I could say I want it to by default. Oops. Yeah, I did want to do that actually. By default, I want it to be 10.5 unless, I wanted something different. Now, one thing I really want to point out is these names are arbitrary. This could be unicorn, this could be cotton candy, and this could be chocolate, right? They are what we are creating, and they refer to what's being passed in. Okay, does that make sense? Something that's really important, because I didn't put an equals for my data, whenever somebody, myself or somebody's looking at my code, whenever they're trying to run this, they have to give me data. Because I put this equals here, this is a default parameter saying that, if they don't give you an X, I just want to run sale price. And if they don't give you a fig size, I want it to be 10.5. So they don't have to give that if they want in order to run this function. But in order for them to run this function, they have to give me data. Make sense? Now, if I'm cleaning up this function, okay, we've set it up to where we have data, we have the column that we want on our X, because this is just univariate. And then we have our fig size. What do I need to do to my function now?
make it so it references those variables.
Absolutely. Way to go, Brock. So now what I'm doing is data does not equal DF, data equals data, right? Whatever that I have passed in, whatever sort of data I pass in, that's what I'm giving it. Instead of sale price, X is going to equal X. So anywhere that is a thing. So again, we have equals DF of sales price is actually going to be X, right? Same thing here, X. So anything that, so even this fig size is going to equal fig size. Did I miss any? Mean price, DF equals X, XB line. Okay, so now if I run this, well, nothing happened. Why didn't anything happen?
Cause you didn't call the function, you just defined it.
Exactly. I'm gonna go ahead and return my fig and my X. I've created it. I want to go ahead and return it when this is called. Exactly, Brock. Now I actually have to pass in my function. So if I say something like this, I say fig x equals plot dist. What do I have to pass in?
Data.
Data. So I'm going to say df. Now, if I run this, I get that same piece, right? If I wanted to, let's go look at, let's say. Let's say instead of sale price, I want to look at year built, right? Now what I can do. Let's say
Wait.
year built.
You should probably change all the titles to F strings that reference the variable, or else you're gonna have your graph labeled as sale price.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're gonna look at how we can do that dynamically in a bit, or it's on the bottom here, where we're dealing with this. But yeah, exactly. But if I wanted to, just to look at this, if I wanted year built, what I can do is I can say fig x equals plot dist. I'm gonna pass in my df. I also want to pass in year built. Now, if I run this, let's see what happens. Cool. So now it has passed in your build. Now, Brock is 100% right. Now, we would want to make sure that, you know, this is a 1971, 1973. So if we're dealing with this mean and median, we'd want to sort of deal with that and figure out different attributes. But if I, you know, didn't want to have these guys right here, if I didn't want to have like a mean or median on that, or on this guy, this is my distribution of my sales price. And this would be a distribution of the years built. Makes sense? Any questions on this? Cool. Okay. So continuing, there's two things that I want to look at. If I wanted to, just like you were saying, if I wanted to change the values along my axis, I could do that as well. And what we're really going to look at now is customizing our tick formatting. So these bottom pieces right here are X tick and our Y tick. So there is this thing called, so we've already talked about the string format codes right here, but there also is a string for method formatter. And that is a class that we can bring in that allows me to change and vary the actual aspects right here. So if I'm wanting to deal with this, because our string formatter is its own class, I have to initiate it or instantiate it. There's a couple things about that. Now, in the same way, when we did matplotlib, when we brought in matplotlib dot pyplot, there's another one called matplotlib. Let's just look it up. Dot ticker. And this is in the same way that matplotlib.pyplot ticker is another version. And that's why we actually brought in, or not another version per se, but it's another sort of subclass in matplotlib that we can bring in, right? Or that we can utilize. That's why I brought in matplotlib as MPL. Again, if I wanted to just call it tick, so I could have said matplotlib or from matplotlib.ticker. I could have done that, right? I could have imported that and then saved a new name as. We're not necessarily going to do that here, but just know that that is an option. So if I'm wanting to use this string method formatter, right? Here's some ticker formatter. Oh, that's a page not found. I'll put this in the chat for you guys if you want to deal with ticker. So if I'm wanting to deal with that, right? what I need to do is I can do a couple things. If I want to say, we're going to go back to our price format, right? We want to bring, just before we do that, let's just go ahead and bring back our fig x equals, what did I call it? Plot dist. Yeah. We want to deal with our sales again. Yep. Cool. I don't get a median, so let me rerun this. That way I get that code back. Now, if I run this code, it'll give me all my good stuff. Okay. Now, if I'm wanting to use this string method formatter to format these guys right here, what I first need to do is I'm going to create this variable. I'm going to call it price format. And that's going to equal MPL. So I'm accessing my matplotlib. I want to go into matplotlib. I want to go into our ticker, right? And from that, I want to go into my str method formatter. Now, what this method formatter will do is it'll allow me to format a string. So I can, what I want to do is I want to change the format of the string here that's going to be on this x-axis. The way I want to do that is this is going to be in dollars. So I just put my actual format. I'm going to say $, because we know that this is in dollars, right? Then what I do is I want to be able to give it a variable. So this value, X, is going to represent that. Now, if I'm looking at, let's do str. Method. I don't spell it correctly, but if I'm looking at this method formatter, string method formatter, there's a ton of different things that I can do with this. But what it by default will do is if I have just any sort of variable that I'm dealing with, what am I formatting, is going to be represented by this X right here. So what I can do is I can actually take the same aspect of from my first formatting from up here, right? And do this and apply the same thing. So I can say X colon, I want to say a comma, then I'm going to say point, and how many zeros do I want? Or how many decimal places do I want? In this case, I don't want any, right? I just want a big round number. So I'm gonna say 0F. And now by doing this, I can change what this looks like. Now, this is setting up my format, right? This price format is now setting up the format of my string, but I haven't applied it yet. And that's where I can say something like x dot x-axis dot set major formatter. This allows me to change the format on my x-axis. Well, the way I want to do that, I want to pass in my price format. So if I just say fig, let's see if this runs. Now you can see that here on my x-axis, I've got my values and I've changed the format. If I wanted to do 2, and I run this, now you see that these all have 2 decimals. Let's look at the set major formatter. Here's where I can adjust and do different aspects to affect the format of my axis. So here I identify whichever axis I want to target. I run the set major formatter. And then for a string, this is what is used, right? And if there's a function, and on the bottom of this, there is a function formatter. If you wanted to look more into that, if you wanted to create a function to convert dollars to millions, or, you know, where if it's any larger than 1 million, then it aspects or it changes that. But if it's in the 100,000, it changes it to a K, just like 700K versus 700,000. Or if it's in millions, it'll format in millions. So there's a function formatter there, which then will allow us we just did that. So now it allows us to change the format of this axis. Back to 0. Any questions on that? Last sort of thing that we can talk about is you can customize fonts if you want, and that's in here. There's a ton of different resources on ways to customize fonts. If you wanted to use the plt.title or ax.setTitle within that, you can deal with the text class. So you can adjust the font weight. So if I'm looking at this guy, here's all the different things that we can deal with. We can change the color, we can change the line spacing, our rotation mode, our actual rotation of this. We can change the font weight. So if I wanted a little bit heavier, I can do that. If I wanted a different font style, I can do that. If I wanted all italicized, if I wanted a different font family, so instead of sans serif, I just wanted serif. I wanted cursive or fantasy, I can change the font family. So I can access that through code, right? With our font size, I can have extra small, all these different sizes. Again, I can change font family and our color. This is one way that you can sort of set that up. Right here, where you identify and verbally say every single piece, not verbally, sorry, but identify every single piece just like this. This would be totally fine. If I run this, you can see that this title is thicker, right? Along with, yeah, this title is thicker. It's a different font family. The font size is larger, so it's in our extra large, and then our font weight is semi bold. So I can start identifying each one of these within my method if I wanted. Any questions on that? There's another way that you can do it, and this is dealing with your actual matplotlib parameters. So just all of the properties that matplotlib has, and it's called PLT RC params. And this is going to give you a ton of information. So if you run this PLT RC params, you're going to see a ton of different pieces, a ton of different things. Let's run it. So I run this. Here's all the different things we can change in our matplotlib. Even if I wanted to, by default, adjust the figure size, let's say I always wanted it to be 10.5, I could do this in here. You can sort of think about this as the format, the template, that's the word I'm looking for, like the blueprint of what matplotlib is going to automatically give you out of the box. And if you wanted to change these, you totally can. And so there's a ton of different things that you can do with that. I'm gonna close this, including changing and updating. You're saying, okay, PLT RC params, I want to update my font family. I want it to be just serif. I want to update my font size. I want it to always be extra large. My font weight is going to be semi bold. So if there is certain things that you wanted to update, because this is a dictionary, right? So you have to update it in the same way where you give it a key and a value. If you did want to do that, you totally can that way. Any questions there? Last thing is, I know I said last thing last time. Seaborn, as always, is great. It is incredible. It also comes with what we call contexts. So by default, if you set up one of these 4 contexts, or if you identify and say, I want it to be this context, I'm going to set that context, it will take your figure and it will adjust it to whether you're trying to do this in a PowerPoint presentation. It'll identify, it'll not morph it, but it will scale it to, what is most ideal for a PowerPoint. If you wanted it for a large poster to show, right? You want to show your data. It has poster, it has paper if you're doing some sort of academic paper. And if you just wanted to throw it in a notebook, you could do it as notebook. So there's a ton of different examples here. But if I run this here, this is the talk, right? Automatically defaults to this. I've got notebook where I can run this. You see it adjusts and changes. I have poster. Because everything's much larger, so I'd have to change my figure size. And then here, if I wanted to compare all 4, we can just sort of see all 4 of these different pieces. We got poster, talk, notebook, and paper. It'll automatically adjust. It'll bold. It will do certain things for me, just based on whichever context I set. So here's my poster, my talk, my notebook, and my paper. And then I want talk, because typically talk is, especially for what I do, the easiest for people to see and understand. Okay. Any question? I know today was sort of just walking through a lot of code. There was a lot of stuff that we wish, and I wish I could have showed you. But again, wanted to make sure you have access to all of this. Is there any questions? Any questions at all? Okay. Well, that's all I have for you guys. Again, feel free to look through this. There's a ton of different things that you can do with it. So in it, you can click on a lot of this stuff to like jumpstart you there, especially from the top. If you're working through this material and you want to like jump to this guy, it'll automatically take you there. So it'll automatically take you all up there for you. So it should be a nice little tool to continue to refer back to as you guys are continuing to grow. Cool. I do want to say it has been an absolute honor. You guys have been incredible. It's been an honor to be your instructor. I hope that you learned something. I hope that I was able to answer your questions. I am really grateful for your kindness. Thank you for you guys putting in the hard work. I can do as much as I can, but you guys really put in so much hard work and asked really great questions. So I learned a lot of stuff just even in going through this. And that's part of one thing I love about being an instructor is you guys ask really great questions, and it's constantly keeping me on my toes to learn. So again, I just want to say it's been such a pleasure. I hope you the best of luck. If you guys need anything, as always, feel free to reach out. Even though I'm not your instructor next stack, if you have any sort of like panic moments, I'm always just an email away. So feel free to reach out to me, and I wish you the best in your careers, and you guys can do it. When it gets hard, I promise you can do it. It might suck in the moment, but in the long run, I promise you'll look back and you'll be like, wow, look how much I've learned. Do that. Make that a common practice of yours. So
Congrats,
again, it's been my
everybody.
pleasure, and I hope you guys.
Thank you so much, Will.
Thank you.
Will,
Yeah.
if you're ever in the East Bay, hit me up. We'll get a drink.
Absolutely. It's my dream. I've been watching How I Met Your Mother a lot lately, so I need to go.
Does that take
Oh, the
place?
East Bay. No, you're in San Francisco. My bad.
Yeah.
I might be soon, but
Hey, yeah,
You're
just
okay.
let me
I know
know.
that you're in
I'm
New York.
around.
yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah. No, I'm definitely not near New York.
Yeah.
Will, where
I'm
are
over
you?
on the East Coast, man.
Will, where
Yeah.
are you?
I'm in Seattle.
Ah.
Yeah.
Oh, I've been meaning to go to Seattle. If I'm there, I'll let you know.
There you go.
We're
I've
all
never been.
coming to Seattle
Nice.
to visit.
Yeah. Well, hit me up. That'd be awesome.